So how do prejudice actions around children influence their judgments as adults? So did you know that 100 people are not born prejudiced to any race or gender? If kids were not taught or shown racism / sexism, they would not grow up with negative bias. Harvard researchers said it is not the fault of the children that they grow up to see a majority of power and influence concentrated among one race. So if we don't act in their lives as they age to show context to that imbalance, they may continue to believe that one group is better or worse than the other, based on nothing more than color, features, or expressions. So in Attitudes Towards Muslim Women in the West, by Leah Abou-Lawad, she speaks about how 5 Muslim men did the 9/11 terrorist attack, and because of that 9/11 attack, now all people who look like this, because they're Muslim, the first thing that they think of and see is this. So when kids are really young and they don't necessarily understand what terrorism is and all that, and they're just told, oh, a Muslim person killed 2,000 people, the first thing that they think is that, oh my gosh, all Muslim people are like that. Kids are too young to understand it. So when parents just tell that small part, as soon as a kid sees a Muslim person, they're like, oh my gosh, that's a bad person, I bet you they do that too. So growing up, that's always the bias that they form because they were too young to understand it, but then it sticks with them for the rest of their life. So these kids are 3 to 4 years old, they're very young, right? Well, it was found that 3 and 4-year-olds do not have to have the mental maturity to create a negative bias. They don't have to be mature whatsoever, and yet at 3 and 4 years old, they can have the same level and strength of a negative bias against a person of any race or gender as an adult can. Even though they don't understand it, they can still have that strong of a negative bias. Kids do a lot of monkey see, monkey do. So as growing up, kids always are looking around and they're always looking at their role models and seeing what they do, and that's just what children do. They're learning all the tricks and all that to life, and they're learning what they should and should not do. So a child's natural instinct is to see what their older people around them do, and if they see someone being racist or prejudiced in any type of way, that is what they're going to think is right, and that is what they're going to continue to do growing up. So in Looking Glass House by Lewis Carroll, he was not necessarily mentally all there. He wasn't an average adult. He had hallucinations and stuff. So when he wrote Looking Glass House, it was about a girl who saw life as a chessboard, but the main idea of it was the fact that at the end of the chessboard or life, she wanted to become a queen. That was really important to me because I felt since he had the mindset of a child, he didn't have the society to put into his mind that women were less than men. See, this picture is portrayed. So most times in all of history, it was always the kings passing down their power to their oldest son. It was never, even if the girl was oldest, he would not pass it down to the oldest daughter. It had to be the son. And that's because he was seeing that men are more powerful and strong, and that's always how society's been. But since Lewis Carroll had the mindset of a child, it wasn't that the end goal was ever to be a king. He made it a queen because he had no bias of any sort. So then something that I feel many can relate to is kind of throughout high school. This is inappropriate because she's a girl, but it's not inappropriate because he did it. It's called school spirit. So not only does it happen as a child, it continues through life. And even further to prove that, it happens everyday life, adults. 58% of women experience some kind of discrimination because they are women, in their everyday life. It's sad that women cannot fully expand in their careers because they are women and they are judged and discriminated against. And even more sadly, that if you are a Muslim woman and you wear your hijab, you get 69% of discrimination. So because you're a woman and you believe what you want and you wear what you want, you're discriminated against, which could potentially stop women from their success. So all because of something that was put into children's mind as they were so young, continued through the rest of their life and continued to affect them from a child all the way up to when they're an adult. So as a result, I was thinking that of course, not every single person on this earth will never have no judgment towards any race or any gender. There will always be some kind of sexism and racism in the world, but every little step counts. So if it was more made aware that children are watching you every step of the way and they really do pay attention to the things that you're doing and saying, and if it was just taking that one little step, if we go back to the 9/11 thing, if parents stopped and told their children, like, that was 5 bad men. Not everyone else who are like them are bad like them. That would change a child's perception. Like, maybe it wouldn't fix it altogether, but it would be one step towards trying to fix the discrimination. And, you know, even if it's one less person that it doesn't discriminate against one or another gender, that's maybe one more person below them in the work field that gets to succeed. And that's one step closer to being a happier place.
Okay, one question for you. How did you select the strategies that you used to gather information or conduct your research, and do you think they were effective?
I felt like in this one, it was a really good, like, I could pull on people's emotions really easily, and I felt like a lot of people who have ever felt like sexism or like racism, that it would be really easy to like kind of like bring that back up. And then like the monkey see, monkey do, I knew like everyone has pretty much played monkey see, monkey do. Like as a child, like we always play that, and I felt like if I just chose something that we could all relate to, and like the high school thing where it was the school spirit, I just felt like if I kept pulling on things that everyone like felt or knew or saw, then it would be like easy to bring it together and make people understand.
Okay. Thank you.